but I think this will be one of my final videos. Alright, welcome back. By the time this video goes up, it would most likely mean I'm dead. As in, Aglaea would finally have completed her testing on my account. We have been, as of this day of recording, it's gonna be Saturday. We have been playing with her on Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays, every single day for roughly 6 hours on stream. Which means I have spent 24 in-game hours with Aglaea. And after this much time, I don't think I have spent this amount of time for a DPS in Honkai ever since Akron, actually. Or actually, now that I think about it, I don't even think I've spent this much time for a unit ever. I think Babin might be a close comparison. But I think we spent quite a bit of time testing out Babin. But Aglaea is one of those units that we really spend a lot of time playing with bro. Because let's just be real, bro is pretty big. Alright, as in like her kit does have some big interesting points that would need time to experiment and theorycraft to find out, you know, whether the allegations are true or whatnot, right? So as of this recording, you would have seen the Aglaea pools, the Aglaea 1 versus 2k, the Aglaea 0 cycles, the every single Aglaea team. We quite literally tested out 20 different Aglaea teams on stream. That shit took 2 hours plus. And then we just finished up the Aglaea CN unit analysis. And then we also the most recent one is gonna be the addressing the Aglaea allegations, where we basically used a 1-cost Aglaea E0 S0 with complete essentially free to play 4 stars, right? So after everything, is Aglaea overhated? Underhated? Is it justified? Is she really that bad? Undervalued? Should you pull, not pull, everything? We're just kind of yap about this in this particular video, and I'm thinking we might see more of these kind of videos going forward, because ever since we dropped a couple of games, I have now a lot more invested back into Honkai Starbucks as the Honkai Starbucks guy. I'm absolutely him. You're absolutely goddamn welcome. All right, so because of this, I feel like for every single unit, every single new release, we will be playing with them extensively, right? I had to juggle Aglaea's giant. We'll be playing with them extensively, and then we'll kind of wrap up everything with a video similar to something like this. Not objective. Some things I say they are gonna be facts. Like for example, Aglaea is very fast. But at the end of the day, the viewer, you who's gonna be watching this video, you will decide for yourself if she's gonna be valuable for your account. Because at the end of the day, that is the #1 most important thing when it comes to a brand new unit in any gacha game. Should you pull for bro? And if you did pull for bro, how can you make bro be better, right? So let's just talk about it right now, right? So elephant in the room, easiest, most straightforward question and answer. It's not should you pull for Aglaea? But who should pull for Aglaea? Because you could encompass like a lot of different players, right? And here's my personal opinion. I think that Aglaea as a unit, she might be crucified under the hate microscope a little bit too much because of her reliance on Sunday. It's almost as if like the fact that she needs Sunday is like a cardinal sin. It's like, holy shit, she got cancelled for needing to use Sunday. And I think it is honestly a little bit excessive because at the end of the day, units that synergize well with one another in Honkai Starbucks, they shouldn't be penalized for it, you know. If anything, if she has a extremely good synergy with Sunday, if you don't have the necessary tools, then it's even easier for you as a player to realize that, okay, her power, right, as a DPS is not up to the caliber that I'm expecting because I don't have a set unit. So it's actually even easier for you as a player to decide, fuck it, I don't need her, right? If anything, a unit that finds it universal, a unit that can fit with, especially a DPS, right? If you find a DPS that can always sort of fit in here and there, something like, you know, if Qing Liu can always fit in here and there, it's like, you know, damn, she just run with everyone, is great. But it also means that it's gonna be easier for bro to fall behind compared to units with a more specialized niche. So with that established, I feel that Aglaea at the end of the day is just a means to an end to the end game content in Honkai Starbucks. And the real reason why you shouldn't pull for Aglaea or should pull for Aglaea is ultimately going to be back to, do you have the DPS required to kill the ending content? Because this is kind of like the whole power creep, greed and stability kind of thing, right? If you already have the DPS required in the team comps that you're investing in, pulling for another DPS means that the DPS that you're placing, the amount of stellar jades that you invested is basically gone. If you put for Sunday with your Jingyuan, for example, or if you are considering of putting Sunday in the future casters, then at this current point of time, pulling for Aglaea at this particular point means that any future or past stellar jade investments would be null and void, because there can only be one hyper carry with Sunday, right? So that should be the real reason whether or not you should be pulling for Aglaea, not because of the fact that Aglaea needs Sunday and therefore she's fucking dog shit. Because if a player wants to play Aglaea, be it because of a boba or a lot or whatever, she's still a very, very strong unit, personally. Especially if you have her best in slot team comp at the ready. If somebody is interested in making that team work, they will do everything in their power to make that team work. Super break. If you wanted to make rare bar work, you would probably want to pull Fuke and make that rare bar a lot stronger. Or Bullet or Firefly, right? Fei Xiao with Babin, Ran Mei with that super break. Although they might not be as needy, I would say maybe not as needy as Aglaea with Sunday, it doesn't mean that you pulling for these upgrades could be seen as a bad thing. Because fundamentally, they are still used to improve the experience that you are getting from using the exact same team. So hopefully that answers whether or not you should be pulling for Aglaea. Bottom line, if you're okay with the DPS, the team comms, the archetype, like crit DPS, if you're okay with the team that you're running right now, and you don't really feel there's any need to, you know, slot her in, then it's fine. And if you did decide to, you know, pull for Aglaea for reasons that you personally, you know, enjoy a kid, you enjoy a playstyle, that is also very, very valid. And people say like, you know, oh, if you pull Aglaea, you're breaking your account. You never really break an account from just pulling a DPS. You break an account from not being decisive with the path they're about to commit. So you're kind of half-assing it. I was kind of talking about it in my chat earlier. If you half-ass something, then everything is just going to be as halved. Half-ass. Half-ass. So it's not particularly just Aglaea, it's just on the overall general team building direction that you are taking for a team. So that's that. Done. Very, very good. Now, aside from that, Aglaea's energy question. Alright. Specifically, this goddamn 350 energy cost ultimate. The deal with this ultimate is having a unit such as Sunday, or even if you could run her with Hue, it drastically helps her to maintain this ultimate uptime, right? We've said it a lot in all of like the previous 5-6 different videos. Having these units can help us bridge the gap during the ultimate downtime. But what I've noticed after playing for so long is that, yeah, sure, you're not gonna have 100% ultimate downtime, but it's not really the end of the world for you. It's unfortunate that she has to ramp up. It's unfortunate that Garment Maker doesn't generate stacks during her ultimate stage, and it's only either yourself or Garment Maker. It's unfortunate that during this downtime, you are gonna be falling behind quite a bit in the DPS department. But there are always different ways that you can kind of circumvent this. So for example, right, at the end of the day, I feel like it's really up to the environment. In Pure Vision, right now, there's a buff that gives you a free ultimate. In MOC, Sarvrock and the Wolf has quite a bit of AoE. So if you are going to be using other units that can give you energy, you know, for me, I used a full 4-star team. Second half, I'm not sure if we maintain 100% ultimate, but it was pretty damn close to it with Ting Yun Gallagher as well as RMC. And everybody has RMC, so don't tell me you don't have RMC, right? And in the future, the next MOC rotation that's coming out, it is gonna be built for your Aglaea. Take that with a very, just remember that, right? Remembrance. Remember that the next MOC coming out, it is meant to shield for Aglaea. They are gonna give you the energy buffs. It is not leakers because I've already played in the creator server. That's quite literally the next MOC. So when that comes, and you feel like, oh my god, Aglaea has no energy problems or whatever. No. She 100% will face this issue. And players that play MOC in the next refresh, it will feel a lot more different. But that shouldn't be the benchmark that you are basing off of Aglaea's biggest weakness, which is the ultimate. Right now, as of this current moment, it should be the time where you can start to feel how it's like when you run into this energy problem. And then the next MOC, if you did decide to pull for Aglaea, that means, okay, it's gonna feel a lot better. But at the end of the day, it is always the environmental factor. And as per the environment, it's eventually gonna go away, right? So don't go into next week thinking, holy shit, Aglaea is busted. I will keep my reservations low. One thing to consider is that right now, we have a Sunday, we have a Hue. We haven't really seen a version 3 energy battery yet. Because technically Sunday is towards the tail end of version 2.7. Right? So if going by the structure of V3, right? You see that Herta has a pretty high energy cost for herself. Aglaea has a ridiculous energy cost. And if this pattern does keep up, I wouldn't be too surprised if in the future we get an even stronger energy buffer. Because right now it's 20%, right? Why if we get 30%, 40%, 50% max energy? If that unit comes out in the future, then DPSs like Aglaea would stand to gain a pretty considerable buff. But this is going to be purely up to speculation. My bottom line is essentially energy, what seems or feels like is like it's joy if you don't or have Sunday. There are always going to be different factors that will impact the experience of you playing Aglaea. Speaking about energy, I do want to touch on this Idolin 1 over here. Now, I have been playing Aglaea this entire time, E0, S0, and E0, S1. I didn't really felt the urge. It's like, fuck, without E1 it's unplayable. Because unplayable is a very strong term. And I think people, they do toss it around quite casually. I would say though, in all fairness, in all objectivity, I would say that Aglaea is actually the definition of a mid DPS if you do not fix the energy problems. Either is it going to be Sunday or Hue, because the fall off is going to be quite significant. It's not like that bad of a thing. It's like in 2025, people say if a DPS is mid, it's Jover. It's really not, because there are always ways to kind of circumvent this, right? This E1, it's gonna make you feel like the reliance on external factors, either through your teammates or the enemies or the environment or the buffs, it will be a lot less important because now Aglaea is a self-made woman. Getting her this E1 is essentially you say, yo, Aglaea, you're free. You are not a corporate woman. Be your own slay girl. Like, she is now independent. And that would be the most important aspect of the E1. Which is why if you see all these, like, you know, damage calculations in the future, you know, what E1s are what 60% higher, it is not really that. It is only assuming the simulation where she loses her ultimate without this E1. So with that considered, if you really, you know, just want to love Aglaea a lot, I do think that getting this E1 might be something you consider. And if people shame you for putting an E1 unit, I mean, that's really up to them. If you are enjoying Aglaea as a unit, if you want to play Aglaea, don't let the opinions of like others stop you from playing the unit that you want to play. Because at the end of the day, it is a gacha game. Whether or not there's meta or no meta or whatever, if you can really resonate with this playstyle, I think it's completely fine. All right. That being said, though, I don't really... Okay, me personally, right? This is not really just pertaining to Aglaea. I don't really like what this E1 might signal for future DPS. Because back in the past, right, it might be a good thing or a bad thing. But if you want to see like Sila's Eidolons or Jingyuan's Eidolons or like Blade or even like Jingliu or even E2 deal with the E1, right? A lot of these DPSs, they are specifically that first E1. Usually the change isn't that impactful. Most of the time it is a really straightforward damage increase. Crit, multiplier, defense down, res pen, whatever the fuck, crit rate. But tying a rotational based Eidolon to the E1, I'm a little bit afraid that they keep doing this for future DPSs like Mighty casters or whatever the fuck it's gonna be, where it is not a damage multiplier, but it is like if you want to make this character feel good to play with, especially if you don't want to tie yourself down to the team comp, and the solution is the E1, that might be a little bit unfortunate. For myself, I think I'm G, because at the end of the day, I like to play all the different units. I'm going to pull every single unit easier as well anyways, because I love playing all of them. It's fine. But for accounts like Bob, right? Accounts like Bob, which is, you know, my free-to-play account, I will hope that DPSs can still not be that deeply impacted, is what I would say. Let's move on to the actual battle performance. MOC Pure Fiction Epoch Shadows. I think MOC as a mode, it is probably where Aglaea shines the most. I take it back. It is definitely the place where Aglaea shines the most. Because so far, this is the one where if you can go into the next wave, the thingy resets. The ultimate pushes all the way back to 100. In PF and AS, it doesn't give a... They don't care. So it actually helps you get a much better feel to kind of abuse you getting a fast enough speed to go in and clear the stage, and you basically cheat an ultimate. And that is just for this current rotation of MOC. In the next two rotations, so this next rotation is definitely going to be good for Aglaea, but the rotation afterwards, I feel like Aglaea, this kind of unit with this supreme stage or supreme state that can be pushed to the next wave, is pretty damn good. And then during this time to the expiry of the buff, give her energy, give her action values. Who knows what V3 support is going to be coming out. I think her performance in MOC is going to be pretty good. Specifically because she doesn't really care that much about erudition, single target, or multi-target. Because she kind of like is doing everything, you know, pretty decently. Right now, it's kind of like that's designed for the Herta, right? With the piggies. Aglaea can still kind of perform, albeit it is probably not as straightforward. If next time it's just gonna be a single target or a trio target, she's still gonna be able to do, in my opinion, pretty okay. But I would say this is probably not the case for Pure Fiction. This isn't really specifically for Aglaea, and I'm gonna be talking about this in the video after, which is this Pure Fiction, in my opinion, is one of the bigger difficulty jumps in Pure Fiction as a whole. I feel like up until the last one, Pure Fiction has been very, very manageable. But this Pure Fiction, it was a pretty big jump. And Aglaea herself as a unit, right? She's also not that good for pure vision because the way her targeting works is always trio targeting. So far, all of the buffs we have for the endgame content, inclusive of MOC, is not that good for Aglaea. In the future, if pure vision continues to ramp up the difficulty, so if we have a 13 minute or 14 minute, or I can't remember Argentine's HP, it's like a 12 or 13 minute HP Argentine. If it continues to ramp up, not just Aglaea, but a lot of different units will start to see the drop off, and then we would hard pivot into erudition-based multi-targeting units such as Aircron's Ultimate, D Herta, Erudition, Super Himeko, etc, right? So this is not really pertaining to Aglaea herself, because I feel like if this pure fiction was in the similar scale as like our old pure fiction, Aglaea would most likely still get a pretty considerable 30 to 40k. So that's what I feel for this. Not really Aglaea herself, but just this environment, right? And then lastly, MrPokke Shadows. The side we have right now is Ventilia. I think Aglaea still does pretty okayly, right? Considering our complete free-to-play was roughly 3350, 3360. So if you do have the team set up for Aglaea, MrPokke Shadows shouldn't be suffering that bad. Her joint attack applying the additional procs are always going to be nice. It would be pretty dependent on which buff you get when you break the target, because it's either give you a max energy refresh or 100% action value advance. So Aglaea really does prefer the max energy refresh, so you essentially maintain this ultimate uptime almost permanently, even if you're not going to be running Sunday or Hue Hue. But for that one, it's just going to be up to the boss and the environment that we're going to be using Aglaea in. In conclusion, I do feel that Aglaea as a unit, she will definitely suffer the most in pure fiction. After playing for so much, I think pure fiction is where she struggles the most, just like all our other units. If they scale up this difficulty of pure vision to match on to the same caliber like the, I think MOC is probably arguably one of the more harder content compared to MrPokke, right? Yeah, so if they make pure vision harder and harder, Aglaea is definitely going to start faulting a little bit, right? But for MOC and MrPokke Shadows, I think bro really has no issues, especially if you already gave her the team that you have built in mind, right? So that is going to be that. Final closing thoughts on how Aglaea is going to be standing, or at least how I feel she might be standing compared to the projection of the roadmap of version 3. No leakers, right? No leakers at all. So Aglaea is a DPS, high speed, high energy requirement, multiple action values. Make her stay in this ultimate as much as possible. Remembrance DPS, summons Garment Maker. Impact of her, let's just split into DPS, support, and sustain. Sustain first. I have this one time where my Garment Maker actually died mid-ultimate, because Garment Maker by itself, frankly, is not that tanky. So if in the future the enemy just decides to, pew, Savro just stream snipes Garment Maker, hits him 2 times, 3 times in a row, he dies and you lose ultimate state, nothing is gonna save you. Hue Hue ain't gonna save you. Avenging Shield is not gonna last for 3 turns because bro is so fucking fast. Maybe the only unit that can save you is probably gonna be Fusion, but Fusion also have her own host of problem, which is, big AoE ultimates, more immune sprites means more targeting, more sharing for Fusion herself, right? So I would hopefully like to see some kind of sustain that can build up a increased taunt value. I don't think we have seen this in the sustain so far, so it's either gonna be preservation, remembrance, or maybe like if a remembrance sustain can sum up like a door that draws aggression towards the target. Like he summons like a Aeon of preservation. I think it'll be really, really good, not just for Aglaea, but for pretty much any of these remembrance DPS. Because can you imagine if this problem is happening to Aglaea? I will really not be surprised if this exact same problem happens to Casterus or any remembrance DPS. Keeping the Mimo sprite alive, especially if their ultimate is going to be tied to it, I feel it's going to be pretty important. Unless they want their Mimo sprite to die, like for example, the running down Mimi, then there's a completely different issue, right? So that's what I hope to kind of see in the sustain department. Also, more energy batteries like Hue Hue, but a little bit more specialized, I also wouldn't mind. So something like Hue Hue can give you sustain, but maybe a little bit more speed or a little more action value that's not tied behind the idle one, right? So that is the sustain impact. Support impact. I think it's kind of hard to see how this will shape because Sunday is basically tailor-made. You don't get it? Tailor? Because she's like a seamstress. Tailor-made for Aglaea, right? Action value, energy regeneration, crit damage, damage buff, all that kind of stuff. Very, very nice. I would say if we are gonna be facing a competition with regards to who gets the Sunday, it might be a little bit hard to allocate, because Sunday bringing up our Mimo sprite is something that I think a lot of Remembrance DPSs might probably want, unless there are Remembrance DPS that don't care about the energy and don't care if the Mimo sprite gets brought up. Until then, we'll just kind of play by here. So hopefully I want to see more version 3 harmony. In fact, we haven't seen a single version 3 harmony yet except for 3B, right? More version 3 harmony or nihility units that can help to shape up units like Aglaea, where there is a more significance on her personal damage as well as the energy regeneration. Right, these two I feel are going to be a little bit more important, because whether or not Garment Maker takes turn, frankly speaking, is not as impactful. The moment you reach 6 out of 6 stacks, Garment Maker itself doesn't really deal as much damage, because joint attack is where Aglaea is at. Right, whether or not Aglaea gets the extra turn, that is great, but you're really using the extra turn to generate more joint attacks plus generating energy. So if you have some kind of support in the future that can synergize with Aglaea's kit even better, then I think she can be a little bit more flexible in the support department, because of right now, all the supports we have, they have their fundamental host of issues. I think the least synergistic support we have so far most likely is gonna be Sparkle, because Aglaea really doesn't give a shit about skill points. 50% actual value advance is really not that high. This is inclusive of the fact that we were running DDD with an E2 Sparkle. Bronya is probably up there, but I think RMC just does Bronya's job but much better, because the damage multipliers are a lot higher. Between Ranmei and Babin, Babin is definitely the most synergistic. Ranmei might not be that bad, just because the buffs actually can keep in effect. Alright, the buffs can remain in effect as long as it's not, because the buffs are tied to Ranmei's turn, compared to units like Hanya, Ting Yun, all this kind of stuff. The buff runs out just like this. Ting Yun's buff are gone just like this. It's gone instantly, right? So, Ranmei is not that bad, but compared to Babin, Babin is just Babin, right? So, and then Sunday, we don't really talk about. And finally, DPS. I think Aglaea's position right now as a DPS is a bit hard to tell, because the path of remembrance, right? Even though it's like the focus is on the Mimo sprites, we don't really know if high-speed DPS will be valued over other sorts of Mimo sprite, which is why this whole remembrance path, it actually brings a lot to the table when it comes to like the meta per se, because a remembrance unit can be anything, right? You can see a remembrance harmony like RMC, a remembrance hyper, fast DPS like Aglaea. If chemistry is gonna be slow, or like DPS per screenshot, that's gonna be a remembrance DPS but slow. Something like Zenler Zone 0, right? You have your quick swap DPS, your burst DPS, your quick swap stunner, your burst stunner, sustain anomaly. So there are all these type of different units with a lot of nuance, even if they are in the same class. So I think for Aglaea, she's going to be performing very well for a fact against enemies like Nicodor, the brand new elite, because of the war armor mechanic, right? You want to attack them as much as possible, trigger the stacks, and joint attack does count as 2 separate stacks. So that is going to be pretty good. Other boss fights, we will have to wait and see how are they going to be synergizing with one another. But from what we can tell right now, I feel that if you have the best in slot Aglaea team, she is not going to be that far off compared to even the likes of Akron or even like Fei Xiao. If you have the best in slot, she can basically function seamlessly as long as this energy is not a problem. I do think that in the future, the question is, what happens if more DPSs come out and then your slot 2, 3, 4, which is the support and the harmonies and the sustain, they get yoinked away from Aglaea. Then it gets a little bit Sedge. Because for example, right now, if you want to run Aglaea in the best, you're basically stealing Babin from Fei Xiao. So if you're going to be running both Aglaea and Fei Xiao, Aglaea yoinks Babin Sunday Hui Hui, then Fei Xiao is going to be left with like, what, Han March 7th, Gallagher, or Aventry. Do keep that into consideration when more and more DPS comes out, and if people get yoinked, then it is what it is, right? So with that, I've come to my closing thoughts of after spending 24 hours stuck in Aglaea's hopefully I want to see what you guys think in the comment section below. I think afterwards we're just gonna be chilling, Monster Hunter Wilds is coming out. Gonna probably hop back to Xenoblade Zone Zero. New games are coming. I had a very fun time playing with Aggie. Alright, it has been a blast. But I think this will be one of my final videos, kind of just playing with a kid, right? And it has been a absolute blast, right? It has been an honor playing with bro so much. So, word of the day is gonna be, I just realized bro is blind, right? Bro is basically Lee Sin. Join Twitch, join YouTube, join Discord, join TikTok, and join Twitter. All the best for a bunch of fools, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.